Hey, I keep not uploading videos that I record. I've probably got like 15 in the pipe, just sitting there, ready to be uploaded. And then I watch them back and go, well, there's detail missing here. Well, there's nuance missing there. And then I just don't upload the video at all. I think I'm being a little bit too much of a perfectionist. But today, I wanted to speak to the title of the channel, right? Black in the Middle. And politically, although I lean right, I am in the middle on many topics. And I'm in the middle on many topics because I look for nuance in a lot of places where both sides completely ignore the specifics. And the reason why I traditionally lean right, although I'm closer to the middle, is because I lean on the side of less government regulation and smaller government. And so here's the thing. Smaller government and less government regulation are talking points. And so what you never really see is people expressing why they agree with those two top talking points. So I'm going to express mine. The less regulation and smaller government, I adopt those stances because I believe that the federal government cannot properly execute its ability to take care of citizens at a broad stripe, meaning no matter what regulation or law or policy you pass from the federal level, it's going to support some people and cut against some people. And so the role of the government is to restrict its laws and policies, procedures, so that it positively impacts everyone and negatively impacts no one. And you cannot do that at the level that government exists today. There are too many specific laws and policies and procedures that cut against somebody in favor of somebody else. The tax code does that. Even the local level stuff, like speeding tickets, do that, right? Yes, I was speeding, but not even a millionaire, right? A thousandaire, somebody who makes, I don't know, 70, 80, $90,000 a year, is going to scoff at a $42 speeding ticket if they're budgeting and paying attention to their finances properly, and not care. And so the end result is the $42 speeding ticket gets paid and they go about their business. Okay, officer, just write me my freaking ticket. I don't care. I'll just put it on this debit card. It comes out of my spending budget. Oh well, right? But then you take somebody who's dirt poor, making $15,000, $20,000 a year, living paycheck to paycheck, and then that $42 speeding ticket disrupts their ability to buy groceries or buy gas. And so they probably won't pay that ticket because they have more important things to do with their money, like survive. But then they get the license suspended for having an unpaid ticket, and then they get pulled over again on a suspended license and have the car towed, and it just cascades into a really shitty life, right? And so you see how this one policy that's designed to make the roads safer for everyone cut against people differently, specifically because of the hard-coded amount there. $42 is chump change for one person, and it will literally make and break another person's life. And these laws at the local, the state, and the federal level, they keep getting passed that way, like universal health care, and the way that Bernie Sanders talks about it helps the people without health insurance who can't afford it, but it cuts against everybody else who already could afford and was living comfortably on private health insurance, right? And when you look at the numbers, it's not even fair. They're like 30 million uninsured or underinsured, and there's 320 million in the country, right? So less than 10%. So these laws that are being pushed today, in my opinion, they cut against the way I feel like government should operate. I feel like government should get out of my way. So if you're passing a law that tells me I can or cannot do something that has nothing to do with you, I'm probably not going to like it. And unfortunately, right now, it's mostly Democrats doing it, which is the reason why I lean more slightly right. If there were a Democrat to come along who was for small government and less regulation, I would vote Democrat. And I don't think being small government and less regulation makes you explicitly Republican or Democratic, because you could still have an idea for having the government engage in social assistance in a way that does not allow the government to scale in size or scope. That's definitely possible. There are plenty of little hacks you can do. Like an example I gave, I don't even know if I uploaded this video, but an example I gave for universal healthcare was, yes, we want universal healthcare, but we don't want the government to pay for it. So why don't we incentivize with tax breaks or credits to healthcare companies that say, hey, if you provide healthcare to somebody that would be traditionally on your not qualified list because of the risk matrix that you create, then we will double your cost for that individual in tax incentives. We'll double it, meaning you have a net win on your bottom line if you put this person on your plan, right? And then we can implement a process that allows those companies to openly transmit their requirements that put you on that risk table, so that the companies aren't like juking the stats. Bam. Too easy, right? I feel like that would fix the problem. But I'm not looking at, I don't have the knowledge of the country at a larger scale to apply this to a larger scale. And the problem is, since the argument for universal healthcare from the left is only coming from one point, which is make the government pay for it, that research into whether or not alternative solutions for universal healthcare could exist isn't even being done. Social Security Administration was asked to look at fixing the Social Security Administration, because they know it's insolvent, right? And so they wrote a report, and the report was basically like, well, everything that we've heard of that's been suggested won't work because it just costs too much. No, bullshit. That was the response. It just costs too much to try these things. So what do you do, right? We would not be in this situation if the government weren't so hell-bent on digging so deep into the lives of individuals and just left us alone to do our own thing. And then incentivize other private organizations to step up and help the community. Churches are tax-free. And they're tax-free nonprofits because the idea of a church is to be a pillar of a community and not profit off the community, but instead allow the community to thrive. But look at all these super churches in urban communities that are huge, with huge segregations, huge congregations. Sorry, I said segregations. Huge congregations and a crap ton of tithes and offerings every Sunday. And look at where the money goes in a lot of these churches. You got some that do the right thing and pour the money back into the community, albeit in probably uninformed ways. And then you got some that end up having their pastors flying around in private jets. So maybe we should, as a government from the higher level, especially the federal government, incentivize these organizations, these nonprofits that spring up to address the shortcomings of government, instead of making the government grow to try to address its own shortcomings as if these were actual shortcomings, because I don't think they are. Because I don't think the government's role is to be that deep in your life. When you watch the presidential debates, and both sides do this, and it drives me crazy, right? They all cite anecdotal evidence of experiences of individuals as the reason why they want to have specific policies, right? So you'll have somebody who's pro-healthcare say, oh, well, let's talk about individual X who had this medical problem, and if there was universal healthcare, they would have been fine, but instead they're dead. And then you have the anti-universal healthcare side go, well, let's talk about business owner X, who, because of universal healthcare, couldn't afford to keep on their employees, and they had to downsize, and their downsize cost them revenue, and now the business is closed, right? There's always going to be that type of anecdotal evidence if you make a policy this big. So I'm circling back around to my original statement. Like, just get out of our way. Let us do our thing. If you have to pass a law where there are multiple exceptions to policy that need to be instituted for this group or that, you probably should not have passed the law. And if you look, there's a crap ton of multiple exceptions and policies to like 90% of the laws we got out here. I mean, even the tax law is convoluted with all these like cuts and credits and deductions. And let's be real, right? The tax law benefits no one. And I know that's crazy to say, but it doesn't really benefit anybody. Think about it, right? If you are in the bottom 50% of income earners in the country, you don't pay taxes at all. So the tax law does nothing for you except hurt you, because they take your money throughout the year and then you get it back at one check. And because you're probably bad at money management, you blow that check like it was money that you didn't have before, right? If you're in the middle income earning group of the country, your taxes or whatever your taxes are, but you have enough income now where you can dig around, get a good CPA, and they can help you with your incentives to get some crazy tax breaks. So you could be making $100,000 a year and still only pay $13,000 in taxes legally because of all your crazy tax breaks. Maybe you're a small business owner and a homeowner. Maybe you got a rental property too. Maybe you leased a car instead of buying it so you can write off the expense of your lease because you're using your car for business. Like all these, the tax system is made to make you an entrepreneur, and society actively denounces entrepreneurship right now, which means the tax system doesn't help anyone. That's basically how it is. Like, you either make a shit ton of money and they're taking it, or you make a shit ton of money and then you're doing everything you can to reduce your tax burden, and then you're being called less than in society because they feel like you're evading tax even though it's legal, or you don't make enough money to pay tax and money's still coming out anyway. So where are we? Yeah. So I felt like these are examples, right? The tax code is an example. The affordable healthcare is an example. Even like speeding traffic laws are examples of how the law, like let's just pretend. I know some people feel like the tax is like direct cut against the citizen and the individual, and there was nothing morally correct about it. But let's pretend that all these laws and policies were designed with positive intentions on society. The problem is your positive intentions as Senator so-and-so or Representative so-and-so at the federal level, you only know your district. You only know your constituents. So why are you trying to pass laws that apply to everyone when you only know your one spot? How the hell is somebody in New York going to tell somebody in Colorado how they should function in today's society? But that's how our laws are shaped. And then what you have happen is something like in California, where somebody had the bright idea, oh, well, companies are cheating because they're using freelancers when they should hire these people. Let's make it illegal to hire freelancers so all these people get hired. And then what happens? One of the main publications that supported the law ends up having to fire like 100 and something people. So you have to pay attention to the nuance of the law and how deep it permeates into the individual level. And you'll see that it cuts against some and helps others. And then that means that you probably shouldn't have that law. Scale it back so that it's only positive. And if you can't make it only positive, then maybe you should not make it. Maybe you shouldn't make the law. All right, guys, I'm going to go, play video games. Peace out.